Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Gimping Camper. It's Barrett here. We're in Charleston, South Carolina this week. We're at Plantation Campground. It's about a 30-minute drive to town into Folley Beach and all that stuff over there. And it's a decent location here. We'll get into that in a minute, but this is going to be our review of the Plantation Campground. So we were supposed to be going to Florida this week. We were going to the Our Village rally. The Our Village rally got canceled because of COVID again. And the weather's not been that great with us here, but I looked for a little while to find somewhere near the coast that we could go on vacation here on my daughter's spring break. And we ended up in Charleston, South Carolina here. They did have a lot of open spots. That was the issue, was I had 4 or 5 weeks notice and we were looking for somewhere to go, and there just wasn't that availability. So we had 4 or 5 weeks before we were coming to find somewhere that was on the coast. You guys know that whenever you're going somewhere on the coast, you really need to get stuff like a season ahead of time. So, our plans got changed and we were able to make it work, and I'm kind of glad that we were. The weather's not been too great. It's been a little sprinkly and overcast the whole week, but it's been nice to go, and it's been about 70, 80 degrees on most days. I do have the fire pit going here because it's been a little bit sprinkly, a little bit cooler today. We're actually inside of our M Combo tent. I do have a video on that, which I'll be sharing with you guys shortly if I hadn't already. All right, so let's talk internet service. So this is the first time since I've had FirstNet that FirstNet didn't come on top. Verizon actually beat it out on the speed test. It wasn't by a whole lot, but it still won. For some reason though, I expected more speeds here because we have full bars on both phones and the speeds just aren't very fast. It must be due to congestion. On my speed test with Verizon, I got 27 download, and on the speed test with AT&T FirstNet, I got 23 download. But I did try the campground Wi-Fi, which the antenna repeater is right outside my front door, and I got a whopping 0.16 download. So guys, I'm telling you, don't ever trust campground Wi-Fi. I've been to one place in 3 or 4 years that's actually come through with the campground Wi-Fi, and that was Honeysuckle Meadows near Sevierville in Pigeon Forge there. But campground Wi-Fi in almost every overwhelmingly percentage of places isn't going to do squat. So let's talk about the general location here. The location is kind of nice. You're about 30 minutes from Folley Beach, like I said. We're about 30 minutes from downtown Charleston. The only issues, the traffic, we'll get to in a minute. There's just a bad intersection right outside of the park. Other than that, the location's pretty nice here. When I was doing my research, everything pointed to James Island County Park as the place to go, but like I said, we were looking the last minute, and so obviously that was already filled up. We did enjoy going down to Folley Beach a couple of times. We ate some Italian food down there. It was pretty good. We did enjoy the Folley Beach area. We went down there a couple of times, put our toes in the sand. It's not warm enough to swim, but it was like 70, 80 degrees. It was warm enough to walk on the beach and have fun, even though it's overcast. And there were also a lot of shops and stuff down there that we kind of enjoyed just kind of looking around at, in that whole typical beach touristy stuff. We didn't venture out a whole lot. We did venture out today to Patriot's Point. It was very nice. There's an aircraft carrier, the USS Yorktown, that's on display there as part of the exhibit. And they have 4 or 5 different tours that you can do in that. You can buy your tickets ahead of time online. We did that. It saved us some hassle when we got there, even though there wasn't really a line. But like I say, it's been kind of overcasty all week. There were a lot of airplanes on exhibit there on the Yorktown. There was also a destroyer there. I think it was called the USS Laffey, if I remember correctly. There's also a couple of helicopters. It started raining as we were leaving, so we didn't stop and look at the helicopters in the Vietnam exhibit. I kind of wanted to see that, but I wasn't going to venture out into the rain and do it. And also in Charleston, there's a lot of fancy places to eat and stuff like that. We went somewhere and had some pizza today, but we don't really get into the real fancy places. They usually don't like the whole fancy chef type food. But if you're into that kind of stuff, this is a great place for you to go and hang out on vacation. Okay guys, so let's talk about the campground itself. There's several pros and cons with this campground. Some of the things can actually go on both lists, like the sites you know, it's a pro that there's a lot of sites. If you're looking for a reservation and you think everywhere's going to be full, it's a good chance they might have some open here. But the cons that go along with that are there's going to be a lot of smaller, tighter places. But let's keep on the pros list here. So, you know, there are a lot of full hookup sites here. There are also some water and electric only sites. Some of them are 30 amp. You got to pay attention on the map of what's what. There's also a food truck here almost every day. And so I didn't stop and eat any of their food, but it did look good. I looked at it through the window, but I'd already eaten when I walked up there. The food truck is just right across from the office. It's between the office and the swimming pool. The pool here looks nice and clean. The only downside to it's that it is up near the main road, so you have a lot of traffic going in and out of there. The bathhouses are nice and clean here. Didn't have any complaints when I went in the bathhouse just to check them out. On the campground map, it talks about there being a disc golf area. I don't know about that. I only saw one post the whole area, and that was right beside the dog run that they have. They do have a dog run that you can go back, and it's just like a loop and back out. But I only saw one post for the disc golf, so I don't know if there's course or just that one area, because that's all that I happen to see. And then they do have some on-site RV storage here, so if you're the type that's looking for somewhere to store your RV and just come down here on vacations and stuff, it might be a good place for it. All right, so let's talk cons. I only got a couple of cons here. One's going to be the smaller sites that we already talked about. Now there are some larger sites, and we'll get into that in a minute, but I'll say that as a general rule of thumb, the further back into the park you go, it seems like the sites are smaller. But the biggest negative to this whole park doesn't even have anything to do with the park. It's the traffic. And I didn't expect a lot of traffic here. I don't know why. It just never crossed my mind about it being like such a trafficky area, even in the whole town in general. But traffic has been horrible this whole week. The traffic right outside the park, there is a left turn on the main highway there at Savannah Highway. There's a left turn right up there that's right in front of the campground, and you cannot go out of this place and turn left. There's always cars backed up right there. You just can't do it. Now I did realize after a little while of doing this that you can turn right at that red light, and you can kind of circle back and come back out in town. So essentially it's like turning left there, but it's going to take you a little bit longer. But I don't think it took as long as when we went down and turned around and made a U-turn and came back. And it definitely was quicker than waiting until you could actually turn left and go out of here. All right guys, so let's go over the specific sites that I would recommend here. Now a lot of these sites are going to be sites that when you come in, especially the ones on the back of the park, because like I say, those are a little bit smaller. A lot of these sites are going to be sites that are on the very end, where you don't have anybody in front of you other than the road from the loop going around. Just because obviously that's usually where you have a little bit more space in any park. I'm going to say that the area that I would personally pick if I came back, now it looked a little janky on the power pole, so I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think it said that it was 30 amp power and water on all these sites. But they seem to share a post kind of in between two sites. And I only saw one electrical hookup on the post that I looked at. So I'm not exactly sure about that, or that trailers can even go in this area. But if I was going to pick a site where I was going to come back, the first two sites that I would pick would be L4 and L3. It's right under a big, huge oak tree. It's a beautiful area. It is a grass site. There's no gravel or anything right there. But to me, it was just the most beautiful area. Then some of the other larger sites that I saw actually were in the D loop that are up closer to the road. Now the pull-throughs 1 and 2, it looked like you would have had a lot of space there, and if you're with a friend, that's a good option because you have a decent amount of yard space there. But the pull-throughs that are on up there, you don't have that much space in between each site. So I actually wouldn't recommend those. But the ones that I actually would recommend would be site D5 and D6. Then it will be L30, L25, L26, PP8, MM22, MM20, 008, NN7, and 007. So guys, those are my preferred sites here. We've had a wonderful time. I wish the weather was just a little bit better, but apparently nobody reminded the weather that it was supposed to be spring break right now. But I don't have any complaints. It's been a nice stay. It's been a little bit rainy, but it's all been fine. It's been good. Biggest complaint that I have about the whole trip is the price of diesel. Woo, boy, let me tell you. This was the first time that we did use our TSD fuel card. If you don't have one of those and you like to stop in truck stops, I would say it's worth its weight in gold. You know, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but essentially it's a fuel program that connects with your debit card, and it can give you up to like 20-30 cents off a gallon at predetermined sites. You just got to pull the app up and see where they have an agreement and just stop in there and get your diesel. You know, it's going to be a little bit higher still than probably getting it in town when you're unhooked, but when you're hooked up and you're going through a truck stop, you don't have to go in, prepay, none of that stuff, and it seemed to do great for the 2 times we filled up on the way here. So as usual, thanks for supporting the channel. We'll catch up to you guys next week.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.